So do you want to reiterate your comments for Kawahara?
Kawahara has worked with the Office of the Inspector General for the LA Unified School District, assisted professional auditors in their investigation of contractor expenditures, especially change orders, with the bond program, and assisted an outside auditing firm in the financial review, the Office of General Counsel at the MTA Authority in Los Angeles, and also assisted an outside auditing firm in the financial review of the wholly owned Economic Development Corporation of the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska.
Yeah, I thought Kawahara was, had excellent relevant experience. The one thing I wrote on my paper was that he doesn't give dates for when he did things. So, for example, when he says, oh, maybe it's in the resume. He was special counsel to the Office of Inspector General, where he assisted with professional auditors in their investigation of contractor expenditures. I just kind of wanted to know when and for how long on these. It's not in his resume either. Now, not knowing that wouldn't prevent me from giving him a good score here, but I want to know when that was, really. You could probably find it in our internet search too. But I thought I gave him a 10 on the relevant experience. And I, based on all the comments that you made, stood out for me as well. One thing that came up a lot in these applicants was people mentioned if they've worked with auditors, and I thought, wow, that's a good criteria. I don't know, did we have that specifically on here? We do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Ms. Cuevas?
So I, again, scored them for a paper cut, review. I give them a 15 because of what you all described as relevant. On the first section, does the applicant have experience working with school boards and school districts? This gentleman has experience working with the second largest school district in the nation, which is probably the biggest bond program in the state.
The BB program, I suppose.
In terms of anything done with WCCUSD is going to be huge and big.
I think it was 200 billion.
Yeah. So, given the scope of our bond program, I think that makes him very relevant in terms of him understanding to what extent we're talking about. We have a $1.6 billion bond program, so I give him 15 in terms of working with school boards and school districts. He has, as Ms. Rico mentioned, the additional experience of working with other public agencies that are charged with public assessments as well, and related to that. On the second part, if I move forward to the second part of relevant experience, I gave him a 15 as well and scored him a little higher because I found his experience a little different than the other group. I'll talk about the other group when I get to them. His experience is more from the lens of an auditing lens versus I'm advising school districts how to approach their own allegations of misconduct. And that to me is a little bit more of what I want to put emphasis on, which is his work within the auditing is different from a different skill set from attorney-client privilege on how do I help you address what concerns might come if you're the actual person who has or an entity or agency who wants to know if you violated any type of conduct in some way. So because of that, I gave him, again, just for the paper cut, I think you raised good questions. I have a whole set of questions for him, like what are those dates and to what extent does that mean he's not limited to providing the rest of the scope around helping to inform this committee around the scope of what should be investigated, as well as that important task that we know we're going to get to, which is looking at the actual information that we have from these allegations and looking at it from a legal lens to determine if there's what are the direction we'll head to determine if there's been any legal misconduct. But I do think that his work is much more from let me look at an actual program itself versus let me work with the school district specifically to advise them in a different context, in a different role around their bond program.
Well, there's some things that he mentioned that will come up when we talk about approach that raise some questions for me, but it sounds like we all would agree that he scores high in the relevant experience.
I scored a 10.
So there were two categories there. How did you rate him in the second one? On your experience?
Both 10.
Okay. I gave him a 10 and a 10.
We're talking about Kalahara, correct?
So I gave him a 10, and does the applicant have experience in effectively working with school boards? I didn't see that so specifically mentioned as school boards. Might have missed it, so I gave him a 10 on that, and then on the other one, I gave him a 15.
I give him 15.
All right, let's move on to the Roberts firm. Who wants to go first?
Are we talking about,
We're gonna talk,
are we gonna talk about this one law firm all the way down, or do you wanna do we talk about staying with one and going to the other, or are we gonna switch?
give me advice on that. I mean, it's a little confusing to do them both side by side. But that's kind of what I established as the way we're gonna do it. Totally is changeable. What do you think, Ms. Mika?
Oh, I think that's what I already stated. What spoke to me on the relevant experience for Rohan. Because to me, they had some areas that are specifically what we are searching for.
You know, I think it might be better to talk about them side by side on each issue because I think the information more will come out that way.
I see
You
your
agree,
point.
Ms. McCall?
I would agree.
Okay. So, the Roberts firm, so you rated them high?
I rated them 15 and 15.
Well, I did too. You know, I was very impressed.
So I rated them 15 and 10. Again, just because I saw more generality, even around their depth of working with the school district, but more generality when it came to directing the work of forensic auditors and examiners. I didn't know from what perspective they'd done that work. It wasn't clear to me.
And if I may, I mean, those are some of the things that would come out in the interview that you could ask.
Well, it does say that in connection with the above-mentioned extraordinary audit, Mr. Lewis, which is the person who would be assigned to this, acted as liaison for the district to the audit team to ensure full and timely access by CNAT to district records and information, and to respond to additional inquiries by auditors regarding district practices and records. So it seems to me in the last comment there it says that they have worked with, they have been training forensic investigators and accountants in matters relating to financial and accounting fraud. The firm will provide the names of private forensic investigators and consultant references upon it. So I like the scope of what they've done so far.
And like I said, I agree. I think they're worthy of bringing in for further conversation. I do think they, like I said, they have experience in what we're asking for. I'm looking for more specific. For example, they talk about Mr. Reese specifically as represented in council a school district whose bond contracting practices were subject of investigation and audit by the county office. So he is advising them when somebody else is raising those audit questions as opposed to they themselves are raising the audit audit questions.
That's a completely different thing then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other thing is, and subsequent, here he has FICMAT experience, but is he, again, representing and advising a group that is responding to FICMAT, which we saw as an independent auditor, as even an option to conduct last report.
But isn't the process going to be that the attorney will help identify an audit firm and then
Yes.
help and assist with the scope? And then they'll issue an opinion, a legal opinion, if there is any legal activity that should be brought forward in the report. So they don't have to be toe-to-toe with the auditor.
No, they don't have to be toe-to-toe. What I want to know is, in their advisement of us, are they going to be advising us from their experience, advising other school districts who've had audits being forced on them, or other school districts who've determined they're going to lead their own audits?
I
See-
think
see what I'm saying?
I think it could be critical because their past is one where they've represented districts who possibly have had people make allegations against them. So they could have the perspective of, you know, the districts are always right, but
They could or they
he's
couldn't.
not, but that's not, I think,
don't think
really
it's-
could be a critical factor in eliminating
No.
them, because that will never be his role.
At least for right
He will
now.
never be in a position to do that, right?
Right.
At least for right now, again, for the extensive purposes of this, I agree with you. I think they both have relevant experience. I'm just explaining why I rated one lower than the other.
I'm glad you pointed that out. It's a big deal. Overall, I would say with the Roberts application, that it's from a firm, and then they tell us which attorney would be working
Excuse
on.
me, can you just say the name of that attorney again, please?
It's Rogelio Ruiz.
How do you spell that?
This Cuevas, do you want to pronounce it?
Can you spell it, actually?
Gee, why are you asking me?
Rogelio. I'm sorry.
Let's see.
Ms. Rico.
Why are you asking Ms. Rico?
Spell it.
I can spell it. Yeah.
Rogelio, Rogelio.
Oh,
Ruiz?
my.
Okay, thank
Ruiz,
you.
R-U-I-Z.
Okay, thank you.
It's Rogelio M. Ruiz.
Okay, thank you.
And so he would be the person who would be working with us, but he would be supported by another gentleman as needed.
Who is a
And-
principal. in that.
And so my understanding is he's kind of like one of the guys, and then they'll bring in the, like, a heavy lifter for the really more, you know, if there's specific things that his background knowledge would be helpful in. and such. So certainly not as personal as working with a one-person firm.
And the person that would be the secondary is, I think, a partner in the firm.
Let's get his name, what was that name? Mr. Behan, R-E-H-O-N.
I have so there's a company that was involved in the Sweetwater scandal called Garcia Calderon Ruiz. So the name Rogelio M. Ruiz kind of stuck in my mind. So the name and they also go by GCR. That's his name, and it's also my last name.
Rogelio or Ruiz?
Yeah, he went by Roy, but yeah.
Rogelio.
Yeah, and GCR, Mary Hernandez from GCR has given to district campaigns here.
To which campaigns?
Mary Hernandez is part of the same company. I'd have to look up,
I
but I
mean,
know.
in our district?
Yeah, in our district. And so Garcia Calderon Ruiz was his, I don't know if it's the same one, but it has the exact same middle initial.
It's a different
Rogelio
firm.
M. Ruiz.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's a different firm.
It's a different firm, but if it's the same one, it's something to consider. He would have been a partner with GCR, and like I said, they've given to campaigns in our district.
Thank you
Those are
for
the
sharing
kinds of
that.
questions,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, that I'd like to see somebody face to face. I've made it clear that this is just an indication of who I would allocate, but not who. And quite frankly, once we give them a list of who to run for conflict of interest, that could be the case with both of them, we don't know.
If the list is comprehensive,
Comprehensive.
that's going to be the challenge.
Yes.
Is how we get a comprehensive list.
And to what degree of separation, how many degrees of separation justify a conflict of interest, too, in my mind? I shared the bar with so-and-so one day. There's gonna be some discussion, I think we're gonna have around that, where there's clear degrees of separation around conflict of interest.
So I think we need to clarify that information, find out more about it, but for our purposes now, it wouldn't,
It's not enough for us to,
yeah, yeah. Certainly that's the kind of thing we do want to look for when we do a more complete search on the internet of these people. Okay, so,